going to be going through Mushrooming Without Fear, which is a mushroom foraging book that my wife recently got me. And I really hope you enjoy this one. I haven't gone through it yet myself, so we're gonna see. I know quite a few of the mushrooms around here, but I can't say that I'm an expert at anything, so we're about to learn together. Okay, so they say that this is safe, easy, and fun. And we're going to, I guess, go through some techniques and probably some different kinds of mushrooms. 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 Why is this safe method safe? If you follow this safe method to the letter, you'll automatically steer clear of deadly mushrooms or mushrooms that cause damage. In the families presented and recommended here, there is not one deadly mushroom. That is the reason why this field guide is safe. Okay. How to use this guide. Read the entire book twice in order to understand the approach. Study the gills, tubes, spines, and ridges section until you are confident you understand it thoroughly and can confidently distinguish them. Double check at home by going through the process step by step. That is very valid information. All measurements of the mushrooms given in the book are estimates because the actual size can vary greatly. What is a mushroom? A mushroom is a fruiting body of mycelium. Mycelium, which grows under the ground, decomposing things as it grows and spreads. And it is actually a very, very complex topic within itself. And if you're interested, I will encourage you to look into mycelium. It's actually very fascinating. And they actually have a picture of mycelium here for you to see. take a mushroom with gills. So, why should we not take a mushroom with gills? Now, gills are, if you've ever looked at the underside of a lot of mushrooms, they have these lines that run through it. Those are gills, and they do actually contain the spores. So, here is an example of some gills on a mushroom. And another example here. And the issue with that is there are a lot of species of mushrooms that have gills that, unless you know exactly what you're looking for and looking at, can end very badly for you. Now, there are ways to identify via the gills, or rather taking spore prints of them and analyzing those. However, that is not the easiest thing in the world, and is actually way harder than it sounds. Rule number 2. Only take mushrooms with tubes, spines, and ridges. And the mavericks portrayed in this book. So there we have an example of spines, or tubes, and spines. And there we have an example of ridges, not gills. Tubes. This is the underside of a cap with tubes. And they actually result in a porous sponge-like appearance. And they were kind enough to put a cross-section in here. A cross-section and the porous appearance there. And spines hang like stalactites. Stalactites, like you find in a cave. From the cap. Ridges are on the underside of the cap, and they are part of it, but they're not attached to the cap or the stem. They're part of them, which is why they can't be pulled off or removed easily. some examples of ridges. How to pick mushrooms. Once again, nothing with gills. That also means not to touch or cut every mushroom that you spot. 90% of the time you can see whether a mushroom has gills without touching it. I hope it's okay if I move this here a little bit, since I actually have not read this yet. Looking under the cap by kneeling down provides good exercise, and does it ever? Does it ever? If you really can't see what's underneath the cap, just break off a little bit to see what's down there. You can use surgical gloves or a napkin, or what I typically do is use a stick. So they have 4 rules here. Never take a mushroom with gills. Only take mushrooms with tubes, spines, and ridges. Only eat mushrooms you have positively identified as safe. If a mushroom smells rotten or soggy, it is. And never eat wild mushrooms raw. Look before you cut. Always cut mushrooms. You don't want to disturb the mycelium growing in the ground. And because disturbing the mycelium can prevent the mushrooms from returning later in the season, and ultimately, if it goes on long enough, cause a excessive buildup of decaying matter on the floor of the woods. Don't put mushrooms in a plastic bag when you have collected them. Let them breathe. Use a basket or one of the reusable fabric shopping bags is what I use. And keep your knife sharp. And, of course, course, it goes without saying. Practice knife safety when cutting mushrooms. Unfold your knife or unsheath your knife only when you're ready to use it. And don't cut towards yourself. You don't want to injure yourself. When the nearest hospital is a long ways away. I live about an hour from the nearest hospital. The most important rule, if in doubt, leave it. It's not worth the risk. And now we're into the fun part. Positively identifying mushrooms. The king bolete, which we have here, Boletus edulis. They are very large mushrooms and quite unmistakable. They have tubes or pores, as they describe the appearance. I always said pores, but they are a large and tasty mushroom. Porcini is actually in the genus Boletus. The king bolete is here where I live, and it's actually kind of difficult to find despite its size, because they blend in incredibly well to the ground. This picture here demonstrates incredibly well. You can see the ground behind it blending in. So those are one that is almost impossible to misidentify. And if you do, chances are you still have one of the other boletes that are here, which are all edible and all taste like porcini when you saute them. The next one is the red cracked bolete, Xerocomus crescenteron. Xerocomus crescenteron. It is considered one of the most common mushrooms with tubes. And its name describes its key identification feature, I guess they're kind of pinkish, but they're cracked and reddish. And as you can see, they have the pores on them. They call this one Hen of the Woods. I know it is Chicken of the Woods. It grows all over here. Grifola frondosa. Grifola frondosa. Grifola frondosa. Grifola frondosa. Chicken of the woods. Chicken of the woods. In Japan and China, it is valued for medicinal properties as well as culinary. The Japanese name for the chicken of the woods is Miyatake. It means dancing mushroom. At least according to this book. I don't speak Japanese. You see, that's because when they found it, they would dance with joy because of the flavor. This is a pretty good diagram of Chicken of the Woods. Showing the clusters, the individual mushroom shape, and the spores and cross sections. Large bolete, Siulis crevieli, Sivuli Ersilovis, crevelli. My scientific name pronunciation is not on par today. If it's pure golden ground, or ground out of the ground, and where there's one nugget, there are others. It's very rare to find a single large bolete. Rather, you find large clusters of them. They tend to form a fairy ring around large trees, also known as tamarack, which are the evergreen trees that go gold in the winter. These need to be peeled before they're even put into your basket, because they have a slimy coating. You can actually see the slime inside the veil. The bay bolete, Xerocomus badius. It is a very common and excellent tasting mushroom, found mainly September through October, but it can be found as early as June, and again, does not like to grow alone. It has off-white pores, a downward streaked stem, and the white pores bruise green-blue. Here's an extreme example of that bruising. Blue-green. The older ones are not as good if you get fresh ones, but they still can be excellent if the pores and wormy parts are cut away. And here we have the birch bolete, Lycianum scabrum, the birch bolete, birch bolete. It has a scaly stem and is typically found among birch trees. It has off-white pores. The pores bruise brownish. And the cap color matches the color bar here. first one is a favorite of many people up here. The Chanterelle. Canthalaurus. Cibarius. It is not surprisingly the most popular mushroom. It is delicious and common. And if you have to resort to buying it, very expensive. It is imported throughout the year. The supermarket is a good place to familiarize yourself with chanterelle. There's nothing like the chanterelle you harvest yourself. Refrain from picking the tiny chanterelles, however. They show hardly any identification marks. At some point, you'll come across one lonely chanterelle in the middle of nowhere for no particular reason. Leave it. So the positive ID checklist. Young specimen, flat, wavy edged cap, rolled out margin. Like that. Mature specimen, funnel shaped. Solid stem. Found in groups on the ground, but not clustered at the base of trees. And never on wood. Ridges must be clearly visible. And the color matches cap color bar range above. Don't mistake the chanterelle for the jack-o'-lantern, a mushroom that grows across North America. The jack-o'-lantern is orange, glows in the dark, and has gills, and is not edible. Trumpet chanterelle. Trumpet chanterelle. Trumpet chanterelle. It is known as the autumn chanterelle and winter chanterelle. It is not gold like the chanterelle we typically know. Rather, it has darker, earthier tones. The positive ID checklist. It is found in groups. Has a brownish, thin flushed, wavy edged cap with a hole in the center. A hollow stem. Ridges. And the cap color matches the bar above. now into mushrooms with the spines. Mushrooms. Mushrooms with spines. Spines. So we have the hedgehog fungus, Hydenum repandum. And here you can clearly see the spines. This is the only truly spiny mushroom of culinary interest. Repandum means bend upwards, in reference to the typical shape of the mushroom's cap. The positive ID of the hedgehog fungus is spines, matte flesh that's matte white when freshly cut, flesh colors in places to yellow, brown, or rusty yellow, cap margin wavy edged, found on the ground, not in trees. And the color cap, or the cap color, matches the bar above. And now we have the Mavericks. The Mavericks. The common puffball. Common puffball. Lycopterodon. Perlatum. It's a curious little mushroom with one mushroom containing up to 4 specimens. They're only okay for use when the mushroom is firm and white. The positive ID checklist for the puffball mushroom. Conical spines. Flesh must be firm and all white. Flesh undifferentiated, no thick rind or outline of mushroom visible in cross section. Color is white to off-white. Found in groups. No unpleasant smell. And the cap color matches the bar above. It'd be careful, however. Don't mistake the puffball for the stinkhorn, which has a thick rind and black base, or black and white interior, or the destroying angel. Destroying angel. Destroying angel, which has gills and a differentiated interior. They are not edible. The horn of plenty. Craterellus cornucopioides. A challenging mushroom to forage, growing low on the forest floor, well camouflaged. You can see masses of them without even realizing. And you can see why looking at this. It is without a doubt one of the world's tastiest mushrooms. And as its price, it can be very difficult to clean. Positive ID checklist for the Horn of Plenty. Found in groups. Funnel shaped. Smooth looking, but slightly wrinkled outer surface. Scaly inside surface. Outer surface matches color bar above top line. Inside surface matches color bar above bottom line. The cauliflower mushroom. Sparasis crispum. It might be a bit chewy, but it has a unique culinary sensation if you fall for it. You'll be a dedicated cauliflower mushroom hunter. It resembles a cauliflower or sponge. And once you recognize the smell, you can find it blindfolded. The specimen in the picture weighed 22.5 pounds. spine. No stem. Looks like a cauliflower or sponge. Lobes. Matches range of color bar. I hope you enjoyed this and that you sleep well. I will see you next time, and until then, rest easy.